And hello, everybody. I'm Dan Lutz, and I'm here with,
Tank.
and we're here on the front lines in the battle against the deep state and the cabal, the Illuminunkies, and all those that wish to enslave all of humanity for their own selfish reasons. And we're winning the battles, one after the other. And currently, we have one in the Middle East with. Let me share my screen with everyone here, with Nancy Pelosi and Schiff being rejected by King Abdullah, King of Jordan, and he endorses Trump's withdrawal from Syria.
That was a trip that you probably could have avoided had you just made a phone call first.
Yeah, if you just made a phone call first. But the question is, why is this? Why is it that they really needed to go there? That's, because a phone call really could have, gotten this information across, right?
Well, I think Skeletor Pelosi and shapeless Schiff there could have. They probably thought somehow that their persuasive intimidation methods or whatever it is they think they were going to use, right? Like to get them to hail to their god or whatever it is that they use on that level. And also, I think in reality they went there to seek asylum. And and what really happened is he said no. I think that's what really happened. My sources say they are there seeking asylum, just like the new Prime Minister, is it President or Prime Minister Trudeau, I don't know which one he is up there in Canada, he's already granted Barack Obama asylum. I mean, why would Barack Obama need asylum? He's Saint Obama, isn't he? I mean, according to Sleepy Joe Biden there was never any corruption in the Obama administration. Well, just because you never got caught with any corruption doesn't mean there wasn't corruption, right?
Right. Yeah. So, that was very obvious when he was first said that. I said, "Oh my goodness, this guy is remarkable. How blatant that they are in everybody's face."
I mean, you used to see Speaker Paul Ryan was, when he was the head of the House, right? Now, when he became the head of the House, Paul Ryan, everyone had to unanimously vote him in, right? That was the deal, or he wouldn't do it, right? And he was supposed to be like the chosen one. Now, here's a little known fact, right? Back when he was just a kid, Paul Ryan was there. He was president as a teenager when President Reagan met with the farmers claims, right? And he was there all the way back then because he was designed to do this, right? And he was one of the many competing characters to be the president, right? Manchurian candidate, right? All the way back then. And I know that firsthand from people who were at the meeting. So, things like that. Now, after Obama left office, Ryan was constantly going in to speak with Obama, right? Because there was a whole fix-in, and Paul Ryan was going to be the president, right? He was one of the guys, either Paul Ryan or Joe Dunford, and then because Trump got in, like all these different things, right? But he would go to Obama's house to get advice and give him all types of inside information that Obama was no longer privy to. So that's when Obama was the Pindar. So he was there, basically laying down his loyalty as what he was going to do. So these guys are just corrupt all the time. Just never stops unfolding.
It's just amazing, when I'm just thinking back, all these people that want to be the Pindar, right? But, pardon my vulgar language right now, is that they're such dicks, right?
Wow, Dan. Wow. Yes, they are dicks, Dan. You're correct.
Yeah.
That's the technical term.
A
bag of dicks is actually what they would be called. Excuse my vulgar language.
Yeah.
Adding that extra bag in there, I don't want people to be confused. But yeah, I mean, the Pindar is the penis of the dragon, right? And there's an application process, and I'm like, who knew? I mean, was it posted on Monster? I mean, like, where do you apply for that?
Yeah. And then I really wonder if the term, that guy's being a dick, came from these people being dicks, being the Pindar.
You know what? I think it actually comes from Richard Nixon.
Ah. You sure? Maybe he was the Pindar, though.
Well, maybe. I don't know if it became that until they realized that Pindar was always a dick, until later, but who knows?
Anyway.
Pretty harmless word. I mean, and how was Dick the nickname for Richard? It doesn't quite make sense to me.
I know, that's unless it was King Richard, he was the first Pindar/Dick.
Right, first Dick. Yes, and I think that should be the new title of the Pindar, is the Dick, the chief Dick.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Hey,
this show just took a wrong turn. Everybody delete that out. Delete all that out.
All right, so let's sorry again, it's part of my vulgar language, but because I think it was relevant. So let me go over this article, right? So this was actually posted 8 hours ago. So Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi and disgraced lying Congressman Adam Schiff. That's a great way to start. Right?
No bias there.
No bias. Well, I like this bias, so I guess a chuckle, right? So, okay, let's say, and disgraced lying Congressman Adam Schiff met with King Abdullah of Jordan, only to find out the King of Jordan agrees with President Trump's Syria withdrawal, as well as his support for maintaining the Syrian border, Assad's government, and Russian reinforcement. I guess they are not ready for prime time players. I guess they're not. I guess Pelosi and Schiff are not ready for prime time. The last minute fishing expedition had two stops: Jordan to see the king, and Afghanistan to meet with the Taliban. I mean, obviously, this is what you would always want to put these two together on a trip. It makes sense to me. All right. This alleged bipartisan delegation led by Pelosi and Schiff is really not bipartisan. Thornberry is the only Republican representative that joined with Pelosi. Schiff's fishing expedition. He's not running for re-election like all compromised fake GOP corrupt rhinos. He's decided to step down rather than be called out. Their first stop was Jordan, where Pelosi and Schiff tried to get the King of Jordan to condemn President Trump's decision to pull out of Syria, but they didn't succeed. Instead, King Abdullah reinforced how important it is to maintain Syrian borders, according to Jordan's news agency. Okay, turning the Syrian crisis into to the Syrian crisis, the king urged a political solution that safeguards Syria's traditional integrity and the unity of its people while guaranteeing the safe and voluntary return of refugees. The meeting.
Hey, Dan, you got a bunch of wind, man. You got a bunch of wind, so it's a little hard to hear you.
Oh, thank you for telling me. Give me a moment, then. I will cut off the wind supply.
So, this is all very exciting stuff, by the way. And after this, we're going to talk about the part 4 of the Project Veritas dossier. I mean, not dossier, but the CNN insider who just dropped bombs. Has been dropping it. Everyone gets more scathing. And they basically talk about sexual misconduct by the executive there, which I find to be, there's really running out of room to hide anywhere. There's no place else to go at this point. But for some reason, it doesn't seem like charges get levied. I'm not really sure how that happens.
Yep. Yeah, it's amazing that it kind of just all sits out there. But I think it is by design. I think they're going to, it really is just, just bring the disgust level up by the population so everyone just is awake to what's going on, at the same time, and everyone's focused on it, and everyone's in such disgust about what CNN is or the other news agencies that are not news, the unnews agencies. And they just think, okay, just pull the plug on these guys, right? Why do they have a license, right? And I think Trump alluded to that yesterday. I think it was yesterday, or maybe 2 days ago, on the he had an interview with Sean Hannity. He said something to the effect about doing something about them in the press corps, removing them. He didn't say removing them, but he said doing something about it. But the context would basically say it was about, listen, they're so biased. Their goal has nothing to do with news. So why are they there in the press corps, right? They've delegitimized themselves. So, well,
yeah.
Let me finish this last part of this article, right? So where the wind kind of is the sound okay right now, or is there still?
Yeah, you're good. You're good. Go ahead.
All right, so I'll just start this over. So turning to the Syrian crisis, the king urged a political solution that safeguards Syria's traditional integrity and the unity of its people, while guaranteeing the safe and voluntary return of refugees. The meeting also covered regional and international efforts to counter terrorism within the comprehensive approach. For their part, the U.S. lawmakers condemned Jordan's efforts, led by His Majesty, in pursuit of peace and stability in the region, praising the king's wisdom. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I read that right? Let's see.
Yeah.
For their part, the U.S. lawmakers condemned Jordan's efforts in pursuit of peace and praise, but they're praising his wisdom. They condemned his efforts, but praised his wisdom. That's what was confusing to me. That's the double talk, double speak. Just threw me off for a second. Excuse me. All right, so They expressed a keenness to hear. I'm sorry, keenness to hear King's perspective on regional and global developments, adding that they are pleased to present in Jordan as the King's marks 20 years since His Majesty assumed his constitutional powers. There we go. So that's basically. Oh, there's one more section here. The U.S. congressional delegation kept trying to get the King to agree to or state that he disagrees with the President Trump's move of removing U.S. troops and their involvement. Statements like, "You are a neighboring nation. You must disagree with the unexpected and reckless withdrawal of our presence," or "The American people feel that our removal of troops caused instability in the region. Do you agree?" His Highness was getting agitated as they kept trying to get him to say something he didn't agree with. They noticed he was getting agitated, so they started appeasing him. It was awkward, very awkward. All right. The last part of this is multiple sources tell us that Pelosi and Schiff were actually discussing and negotiating foreign policy, which qualifies them to undermine the administration's foreign policy. They know King of Jordan is adamant on a two-party state solution. This is only open entry to Palestinian territory through Jordan for those unable to enter Israel. As for the Ukraine, quid quo pro is collapsing. Pelosi and Schiff are actually making quid quo pro deals to the king, defying quid pro quo. Isn't this a violation of the Logan Act? We have been told that the conversations are transcribed. Pelosi and Schiff promising two-state legislation to King Abdullah in exchange for pronouncing President Trump's Middle Eastern policy and actions. Failing to get the King of Jordan to give them the sound bites and statements they hoped for, they hopped on a plane and went to Afghanistan to meet with the president of Afghanistan and representatives of the Taliban. This failed quid pro quo by Pelosi and Schiff cost taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars. TOR is nationally syndicated talk radio that airs on the Red State Talk Radio and contributor for the Loomered.com. So that's the website we're on, Loomered.
Oh yeah, Laura Loomer. Yeah, she tends to be a little biased towards Israel, but she does have a lot of great stuff.
Yeah. So all right. So that's where we are with them. So we'll now we'll be able to get into what's going on with them in Afghanistan, and we'll go from there. So all right. It's amazing that they can just stop this impeachment, go off to get the king to do something, and obviously they're on the wrong side, right? The energy of the world is behind Trump. All of these other nations lining up, we can now throw Jordan into Trump's camp, right? Leading away from the deep state cabal, this evil entity that's tentacles that has moved throughout the whole world to control everything. Who wants it? Nobody, right? If they have an opportunity to get out and Trump is providing them the pathway out, they're all going to take it. Who wants to be under this system? They're going to drop so quickly. It would be like 2 months. It'll go by and all the countries would have flipped. It'll happen so fast. They won't be able to do it fast enough when they see that these guys are going down. And when they're going down, they'll go down hard. I do think that we'll see this mass arrest thing happening, and everyone will say, okay, this is what happened to us. This is the evil Fourth Reich that just continued and metastasized on the whole planet, right? And then go through it and explain, hey, this is what happens. The Nazis came in, Operation Paperclip. The CIA coordinated with them. They took all of these experiments and stuff that they did on the populations and moved into mind control of the population. Hey, isn't this a good thing? We can control our populations. We can do it around the world. Right? And they enlisted Hollywood, They went around and set up these faux governments around the world that were on their side. Pushed dictators into place that they could control with giving them massive amounts of money for them to use. Right, and to create a situation where we're on the brink of war all the time, so that they could control us. And so it's all breaking down, and it's marvelous to see, right? And this just goes to say that we're winning on the front lines. Yay!
Oh my goodness. So yeah, it's a lot of crazy going on.
A lot of crazy going on.
I think the Democrats really went out on a limb when they decided to try to take the quote moral high ground, right? It's kind of laughable, right, that you're going after President Trump, who continue can't even even in your impeachment inquiry, he provides you the transcripts instantly, which immediately negates the credibility of any whistleblower. Because what are you talking about? What happened? What was scary about this? Do we really have people that are leaders in government who read what President Trump said? They're like, oh my gosh, he just did what? What did he do? There is a legal precedent, a legal contract that allows the United States to investigate and share resources with Ukraine on criminal matters. This is a criminal matter, period. And they were going to launch the investigation anyways. I just keep thinking about all these different things that are going on. It's laughable that it's even made an issue. So now what's happening, which I find to be funny actually, is you got to think there's a lot of dirt out there, right? So this Democratic freshman who nobody talks about, Katie Hill, right? She's I guess her husband brought in one of her staffers into like a three-way into their marriage, and there's like photographs of it out there, like nude photos, which is going to undermine the impeachment of the president. I'm like, how does that have anything to do with with anything? But it's kind of like, it's almost like the Republicans are saying, listen, if you're not going to back down, we're going to start releasing everything we had.
Oh, that might not be a bad idea. Let me start. Just do it.
Absolutely.
Forget about this back and forth that they're doing.
But inevitably, that Katie Hill's going to, somehow she's going to play the victim in this, right? Because it was the white male, the white racist, male toxicity, right? That she's going to blame it on against her will, something like that, right? It's going to be one of these things. Because when all else fails, cry victim, right? You're a victim.
Right.
So that's the whole methodology. Everything, create the problem, and run with it. Like you create the problem, you blow it out of proportion, and then the next step is you provide a solution, and you're the hero, right?
Right.
But wait, Dan, on a more serious note, there's something I want to share here. This is very serious. Here we go. Breaking. Jessica Yaniv loses case against women who wouldn't wax her balls. This show is going downhill today. I don't know why. But basically, this is one of the many ridiculous trans cases, right, where this is a guy who wears a wig and identifies as a woman, I guess. And basically, he tried to file human rights violations against a waxing clinic because they wouldn't give him a Brazilian wax on his, man parts that apparently, shouldn't be there. Because God made a mistake.
Just ignore those.
Yeah. I'm here to get a Brazilian wax, and please ignore my my testicles and wax away. So, pretty scary stuff. Actually, there is something out there that's terrifying right now. That I really do think is on a much more serious note. There is a 7-year-old boy out there who the mother has identified he is actually a girl. She is estranged from the husband, and they were in a legal battle for gender reassignment. And now this isn't something like the child wants. This is a mother who's decided her 7-year-old, and she's a doctor, by the way. She's decided her son is a girl, and so she's going to, she was fighting in court to give him drugs to chemically castrate him, right? And then from there, have gender reassignment surgery. He is 7 years old, and the father lost the battle. The father was fighting to keep his son, which is as it should be. And so they're making a complete mockery of his religious and conscience convictions, right? His religious freedoms, his fundamental rights to the care, custody, and control of his child, because a psychotic mother who wants to mutilate the genitals of her child because she wants a different gender child does not have the right to do that. This is a clear act of child abuse, yep. And the scumbag, useless judge upheld it. I am disgusted by it.
Yeah, it's so disgusting. You know, I actually saw this happen personally in my life with neighbors of mine where I used to live, and when I was raising my kids, our next door neighbors' kids, they went through a divorce. The mother, hated the father. From her actions and everything, she was always vile against the father, and the father was friendly with him, and we discussed things neighborly across the yards kind of thing, and we had them over for dinner. But I when they started this whole divorce, she became so upset and angry. And it even seems like they had two children. The one older daughter, who was probably like about 7 or 8 years old at the time, who was a little chubby, right? Not overly chubby, but a little bit. But she said, "Well, you're a boy," and she started dressing her as a boy and telling her that she was a boy. And I just found it so disgusting. And then she said, "Well, she's really a boy. You could tell this." And what I saw was a woman trying to get back at her husband, right? During a divorce, trying to hold this as some sort of strange leverage against him. The implication came out a little later that the second daughter that he had was not actually his, right? But the first daughter was his, and that's why she was attacking that child, was to attack him. Now, whatever the circumstances, doesn't matter. What their disagreement was. She brought the child in, and then that messed her up. So that took that beautiful little girl that was always happy and laughing with my little daughter, right? And turned her into this always sad and depressed and confused child. It was so disgusting, what can anyone do in that situation when even look at, and I was in the midst of the high society area of Los Angeles area where all the Hollywood movie stars lived. The whole area was very leftist. I already had my battles with the schools not wanting to grade my kids' papers, and I was known as the conservative father. I will. It's because I protest against but I just felt like what can you do in this situation, or where the woman is doing that? I mean, who do you call? You can't rely on the government.
Well, no, right? And this has been a standard practice of the bar-based civil legal system that has been ruling and overruling the Constitution and ultimately the people, and ultimately God, right? They have taken the place of natural law, which natural law, by its very nature, is the law of God, right?
Right.
So you have this that goes from natural law or from God or from source to the people. Then the Constitution, and the Constitution is put in place, and the government is there to uphold the Constitution. So what is this civil court system that we currently have? Because if you see RFK Jr. get up and speak, and he breaks down he demolishes them. You would have to ask yourself, now we can have all this evidence that there's no clinical trials for vaccines whatsoever. There's nothing against a placebo. Now your best case scenario is to take a population that exists within the United States that is, exempt, like the Amish, right? So the Amish have virtually no incidence of autism, right? They have no vaccines. They have no incidence of autism. They have no deaths from vaccines. They have no deaths from the measles. They have no deaths from rubella. They have no deaths from the mumps. Why? Why is that possible? Because they're not being vaccinated, right? They are escaping these things, right? It's just known. So you have, if they're going to use people as research, right? How on earth could you possibly deny that they're in violation of the Nuremberg acts, right? The trials for informed consent. They're in violation of that. If you were just to take the facts side by side, there is no argument. Any moron can look at it and say, whoa, this is terrible, right? But what happens is, because the courts rule that it's the other way, because the judges are allowed to say you can't enter that in evidence, right? But that's ridiculous, right? So, for example, you have this you have this journalist who uncovered all this raw video footage from, in public places, by the way, conventions, restaurants, which clearly gives him the right. And also it's an act of a violent crime. And he exposes Planned Parenthood for taking live babies and trafficking their parts, right, selling their parts, taking live babies and killing them that survive abortions, modifying the technique that the woman agreed to while they're unconscious. They modify the technique to get to get what they want. They admit to making it seem like there's no big deal, there's no big difference to the actual the woman getting the abortion. They talk about they lie to them outright, right? They have all this on tape. So he gets, Kamala Harris, right? She's the DA at the time of this. She brings up charges on him for illegally gathering information. Now that all by itself is contempt against the people, right? That is a breach of trust of the people. It is an absolute abuse of power. So you can see why she is familiar with the abuse of power, right? And each one of these idiots who wants to get up and throw rocks at the president, they're all throwing stones about things they're guilty of, right? But that's our legal system, right? So now to make matters worse, you take that into court, and you know that they did not let that jury see any videos until finally they let them see 5 minutes of one video. And in that 5 minutes, it swayed the jury completely. Because in that 5 minutes, what it talks about, right, it completely negates the person giving the testimony, because she said in another venue that it was no big deal. She didn't care about the video getting put out. Then she cried under oath saying, "This has ruined my life. It's been so tragic." It's like, well, you have no credibility. You said it didn't matter. You didn't do anything wrong. Then they showed a video where she's brazenly bragging about the way that she, harvests babies, every single month, and how she would modify the practice so she could get the best parts and be careful not to crush certain parts of the body so that she could make sure to get them, because they would look at the parts list that they were getting paid for and allegedly donating. And how on earth could you justify? Am I getting paid for these parts, or are we donating? And they also got them clearly stating that per specimen they would give them $100. So it's clearly that they're the ones in violation. Yet they're trying to hold, but they don't even address those charges. The state of California isn't even charging them. There's not even a talk about Planned Parenthood being under investigation. Matter of fact, you don't even need to investigate them. Based on RICO, you could take those videos all by themselves and demolish Planned Parenthood. But this is the quote justice system here in the United States. How can anybody feel comfortable? If you get robbed or you're being held at gunpoint, I don't even know if I'd call the cops. I don't even know if I would. It's like, what are they going to do? They might drive by, But if you're driving 20 in a 15-mile-an-hour zone or something, they're going to make sure to pull you over and, make you spend your money, because that's what it is. It's a warrant system. It's a system designed to take your money, right, and fund their organization. And that is the tragedy. Every one of these things comes back to money. The vaccines, the RFK, here on the vaccines, it is clear. This woman discusses this at length, the professional that we had on the show the other day. She says that, polysorbate 80, it is used in cancer treatments to open up the blood-brain barrier to allow the medication to, work on the brain. This is put in the vaccines. What this does is it now opens up the blood-brain barrier in the vaccines and allows heavy metals like aluminum and mercury, which are toxic to the body. The EPA defines 5 milligrams or 5 micrograms of aluminum to be the limit that any human being should be exposed to in the environment. That's a fully grown adult human. But in the vaccines, there's 25 micrograms of aluminum. So you're looking at 5 times the amount for an adult, and you're giving it to a 6, 7, 8-pound baby. There's no one in the right mind who would say, that's no big deal. What they will say, though, ignorantly, is, I got vaccinated, I'm fine. My kids are fine. They all say that because they have no idea what the potential is of their child or of themselves, and they've accepted that. That is the tragedy. That humanity has stopped pursuing greatness or any idea or concept of what they can be, because they're content in their dumbed down state being just what they are.
It's just so disgusting. It's just, especially I know I just am thinking about my daughter and how she's having to deal with these vaccinations in California, and she's saying, she's going to space them out. Now, they're doing things to, like I said, open up the blood-brain barrier for people to know what was going on with this. So, it's just so overwhelming. I told her to leave the state. I said, you got to, do something. You just can't take the vaccinations anymore. You have to leave California, right? So, but her business is there. That's what I said. Well, you can build a business elsewhere. It can be done. You just have to. I said, how can you? What's going to happen when children, even if what if they're sterilized? Well, you have no grandchildren because you got vaccinations.
Right.
It's just, I wish I was back there to kind of really just say, here's the information. I'm sending her the videos, but now she's overwhelmed and but she doesn't know what to do. And this is where many people that find themselves there, they have family members and you want to protect them, but they are listening and but they feel trapped. As if they go to another state, they're going to have the same thing. I said, no, well, it's really California is really, and New York are the ones that are spearheading this. I said, move to Utah. as you want to find a place where at least families are supported there, and health is there's a lot of health nutrition type companies there. Go focus there. It's all about the family. Sure, you'll be able to build a baby business there because she takes ultrasounds of pregnancies, so she can. That's her business. She can move it there.
Sure. Yeah. Well, the thing is, and I think that does apply that course of action for your daughter, because she has to act now, right? But in general, like I live here in New York, and there's a big battle right now with Gardasil 9, and so Gardasil, obviously, this is allegedly it fends off and it's supposed to vaccinate you against 4 different forms of HPV, which there's 100 different strands of HPV. It's very common for people to get some type of HPV, not from some type of sexual disease, and your body just gets rid of it. And most people don't even know they had it, okay? So it's ridiculous. Your body has its own immune system. It doesn't need synthetic, aluminum in it, to try to, whatever that's supposed to do, right? And for the CDC to come out and say outright, like, we don't have time to do studies. There's too many vaccines, right? People will just, without looking into that statement, will think, wow, there's so many diseases they're protecting us against, but they're not. Because 50% of their income is off of patents they own on vaccines. 50%. That is not, so it's a bad business move to allow vaccines, to allow people to have a choice about vaccines. But if you want to increase the bottom line, if that's all you care about is the money, then you don't care how many people it kills, because that's your goal, right? And that's why we have to get the conversation on what is your intent, right? And I would love to see Jim Jordan and Matt Gaetz go after some of these animals and be like, what is your intent? Because this doesn't make sense based on any logic that anyone would apply. How do you, as the governor of California, impose vaccines in California, but your own children don't use them? How does Bill Gates promote around the world vaccines, openly says it's to reduce the population, and then, just in case you thought that meant something else besides genocide, he doesn't vaccinate his own children? And how does any portion of our public stand by and say that's okay? Because it's just not okay. It's an absolute tragedy, and this is what's happening now. We have to get to the intent of this and have a real conversation and say, hey, who the hell are you to impose these things on anyone? And we need to educate everybody and share that message with everyone. There is a genocidal agenda. This is not a joke. The people that were going through the Holocaust, they didn't realize what was happening during World War II until it was too late. The people in China, and Mao Zedong, when he was eliminating people for the better good of society, who are you to say that? Who are you to take my life from me, from my child, from my grandchildren? Who are you to say that? This is the whole concept of meritocracy, right? Who is it that decides what actions, what activities, what behavior, what character has merit? And, Shaquille O'Neal today, basketball player, came out and he was talking about China. He said, he was saying, in America, we have the freedom of speech. It's one of the greatest things about America. And I thought to myself, I'm like, not for long, because they just made it a law, right, to call someone a bitch. Excuse my mouth, but that's what the law says. To call someone a bitch, and it actually, if you call someone a bitch in Boston or in Massachusetts, now you can now face prison time. So think about it. Isn't that, defiantly censorship? What are you talking about?
Right. Well, to control what people say, right? This is the first step, right? You take a word that everyone is going to say, well, yeah, no one should use those words. Don't use the F-bomb. Don't, and you start making those illegal until you can say, well, you can't say the Jesus. You can't say, you hate anybody. So anyone that says, hey, I don't want to wax your balls because you're not a female, you can't say that. Right, you go to jail, right? Ultimately, this is where things lead. It's really about imprisoning people into the system, right? In which they've broken some, weird law, and now they have to make, license plates / Soylent Green.
But also, what is so ridiculous is when, you take a 7-year-old, right, And this doctor, who, I mean, I can guarantee she is raised in the cabal. Because only the cabal thinks this way. This is what they've been doing, gender reassignment to kids like this forever.
Right.
Right? Now, and they experiment on them, the Nazi doctors and whatever else, which, the Nazis had a close relationship with the Greys, which are, I think the Greys, I don't know, like, just based on mythology of what might be true. But I've often heard that they were experimenting to see how we work, right? That wouldn't surprise me. Like that kind of makes sense. Like they got these ideas from, thinking they're superior and they have the right to just do whatever experiment they want on us, right? But you would think that logic on this case would have kicked in. Like, you know what? It's a big win for the transgender community to publicly just demoralize a father. I mean, that man, I would be surprised if he does not kill himself. He has got to just be shattered, right? Because this woman just emasculated him too, not just her child. She emasculated her husband. She hates men, right? She hates her husband, and she hates her child. And she hates that he's a man. So she wants to make that child something better, right? That's a tragedy. That's a freaking tragedy. That's something that's even discussed. It is disgusting that judge ruled in favor of that. What right does that mother have to say that it supersedes the father's right? And when it comes down to it, it's like, we're not going to justify this kind of ridiculous procedure. You don't give your child these drugs. It's insane. And now, I think in reality, a majority of people would agree. But what you're seeing in the mainstream media, you think a majority of people are like, yeah, I need to get my kid reassigned too. Like.
Right.
But then, meanwhile, to make matters worse, you have the founding father of vaccines, right? Like the godfather of vaccine, who talks about how these different vaccines, how one of them he was talking about, I think it was the MMR, had 76 aborted fetuses, and he described in detail how they would take them, cut them up into pieces, then they would turn them into plasma, and they would basically put them in the vaccines to make them batch, right? And he did this hundreds of times with different vaccines, and we know this, they'll take a boy fetus and give it to the girls, and they'll take a girl fetus and give it to the boys, because they're trying to neutralize any sexual desire we have. They're trying to neutralize the amount of testosterone men produce and the amount of semen men produce, the actual quality of life, right? The ability of us, the most natural right we have. The very first commandment ever spoken in the Bible is be fruitful and multiply. And you want to talk about a God-given right? That's not just a right, that's a charge.
Right.
And you're going to take that from people? That is, it's terrifying.
Yeah. Well, I know this is. I want to kind of circle back to what's going on in the world with. I picked up in our group, our chat, that the U.S. has deployed 20,000 troops, 30 Abrams, 25,000 infantry, and 70 combat vehicles to Lithuania.
What?
Yeah. I got.
What?
Well, that's the question. Let me just bring up. Let me change screens here on what I'm showing out there to everyone. I'll share it with you so you can take a look. See what we're doing here. So, okay, so this is Lithuania. I just want to point out the location of this compared to, say, Russia over here and Ukraine down here. So, just an idea. It's connected to the Mediterranean through here, and not the Mediterranean, the North Sea. Sweden, Norway, Finland on the other end, Poland over here. But if we're landing troops in there, what's the reason for that, right? And here's the tanks arriving in Lithuania. Now,
I think that is completely fraudulent.
You don't think this is real?
That's a NATO effort.
What do you think this is NATO?
And, well, it says that. I'm looking at the article right now. It says they're deployed as NATO troops.
I see.
But NATO is the Rothschilds, military.
Yeah.
NATO is the UN military. So what you have is, I don't doubt that there's troops deployed, but they're fighting against, Russia because Putin's not having it, right? And they're always trying to portray Russia as our enemy,
right,
which is not the truth, right? We don't. This hasn't. Russia has not been our enemy since Rocky IV. I mean, come on, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, since Rocky IV, that's about right. So anyway, it's just interesting to see that this is that there are this kind of troops moving, even if they're Rothschild. So why are they moving troops into there? It's a 6-month deployment. Okay, seems to be quite a few. That's a sizable force, 20,000.
Well, I'm looking at a report right now. It says 500 troops.
Okay.
This is from globalsecurity.org, which I don't know what that. So it sounds to me like inflated numbers, and this article clearly states it's NATO. So here, let me just show this because maybe
Okay.
this is where things don't match up, right?
Right.
1 second. Okay, so U.S. deploys troops, tanks to Lithuania, October 21st, 2019. So the United States has begun deploying some 500 troops and dozens of tanks to Lithuania for an unprecedented, meaning we don't do this, 6-month rotation in the EU and NATO state, a move by the U.S. to deter neighboring Russia. So
Deter Russia from doing what? Invading Lithuania?
I think what it's more accurately showing is that NATO is a completely rogue organization that is supported by the Rothschilds. It is the Rothschilds / Chinese elders organization. This is something we've been talking about for a long time. The UN is a Rothschild-run organization, and they are misinformed about what's going on the military side.
Right.
Now, you have a lot of peacekeepers in the UN that are doing good things. But when it comes to the military side, the UN military, they are completely controlled by the agenda, right? The mass genocide agenda. And all they are waiting for at any given moment is for a global disaster to take place, which immediately forces them to go in and take over. Now, we have video of the UN, of guys wearing UN uniforms down in Haiti, and they're sniping out just people just sitting around trees, right, just doing nothing. And we've been talking to them from Haiti, and they're describing exactly what's happening. Like, it's genocide. Like, there's no reason. They're just literally hunting people down, right? So you have this fraudulent peacekeeping, military. Right? Their job is to keep the peace. Their number one concern should be the people. But instead, they're bought into the people are a violation. They're of some harm to the what's going on. So you need to stop it. And you got peaceful people sitting around a tree and they'll snipe them out. But so what this sounds like to me, when you have 20,000 versus 500.
Right.
Now I believe that NATO, the NATO military has 500 troops. I don't believe they have 20,000 troops ready to drop like that, right? But the U.S. military does. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to make it look like Trump's doing something, probably, and create that illusion. It's just almost. But maybe But even if it was, if they were deployed, I do not believe Trump is not deploying 20,000 troops.
Right.
Right.
So those, you're right. Yes. Well, I mean, there was the other information that came that they were actually deploying those 10,000 Marines went to Colombia, right, along with 5,000 that went earlier when Bolton was there and was like leaking that information. So, is there actually more happening elsewhere where more troops like this are going there to route out more deep state actors? I'm not saying it's one way or the other, but I'm saying there's possibilities out there that it could be, something like this. But, that's on Russia's border, right? That's literally, next door. That would be like, dropping them next to, into Canada, right? Next to the, the state of Washington or, New York, either side would, you see the state say, bring those troops into here. We need them.
But there is a reality to military operations. This is why I don't think that, we're going to have 115,000 indictments all of a sudden. Is military ops, when you know what's happening? When it's done. Military ops is not telling you, hey, guess what we're doing? We're dropping troops into Russia, because we're going to make sure to stabilize the border. But if you have 20,000 people at a border, 20,000 soldiers, right? And I'm not sure the exact number of the U.S. military, but I want to say it's like 118,000. But I'm going to check. But if you drop 20,000 people at someone's border, you're not there to defend someone's border. You are there to invade, and that's what those numbers imply. That Trump is invading Russia, which is not true.
Right.
Just all this is just crazy to me. It's like the media has got to be taken over. The media has got to be changed immediately, because if the media doesn't change, you continue to create the mass perception of false flags. You can say whatever you want, and there's no accountability. ABC News comes out and shows an explosion at a gun range, and they tout it as the slaughter of people in Syria, right? And no one. What are the consequences? Nothing. There's no consequences.
That's right. I was just reading the QMAP, so I was just wondering how many sealed cases there are. It's 127,000 sealed cases. Increased in September, 5,000. So it's continuing to go up every month, 5,000 sealed cases. It seems to me that when you see that kind of number, when you're looking at a bureaucracy, that consistent, relatively same number is like, 4,700 to 5,600, that range every month. That's an operation, right? It's a machine, right? It has a certain capacity. If they put more money into it, maybe that would jump to 10,000, right? Because it'd be able to process more. And I look at that, as also an indicator as to when things are going to start changing around. Also, the interesting thing I just noticed there in October, which we're in October, there's 7 executive orders. That's pretty high for a month of executive orders. There's 7 of them. Which is blocking property and suspending entry of certain persons contributing to the situation in Syria. That was the latest one. And then increasing government accountability for administrative actions by reinvigorating administrative pay-go. I don't know what that is. That's interesting. Yeah.
So this says that we have 170,000 active duty personnel serving outside of the United States, and the Coast Guard comprises about 40,000 in total, right? So you only have about 40,000 people here. So imagine deploying half of the Coast Guard, at a border to fend off Russia. It's really questionable. I mean, that's just those numbers are questionable. And then to have another article that's talking about it, say there's 500. Right. This kind of stuff is just crazy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like they're constantly promoting and perpetuating lies, right? And this is the practice that has got to stop, because how do people even know what to trust? You know.
Well, I
and
think
then these other numbers, there's like 2 million soldiers. It's crazy. There's 1.3 million full-time soldiers.
Yeah. Well, I think let's see, the number of troops that we had in I guess it was it in Syria? I guess, yeah, where, so there's just 28 people there. They said 50, right? So just removing them, right? You know, caused all this big upheaval. Oh, we removed our troops. We only had 28 people there. What were they there for? They were a shield.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh! I didn't realize there were only 28 people there.
Yeah, they were moving them around, right, from place to place inside that area, so that Turkey couldn't wham anyone in there, because they wouldn't know if they'd hit the U.S. troops. Right? They were playing a shell game. Right? Move them over here, move them over there. Where are they now?
Wow! So they were there as bait. That is awful.
Well, yeah. Well, I guess it was more of a shield, because obviously it worked. Turkey did not attack them, but that was just really. I think, isn't that the same thing that they were doing before when Trump first attacked ISIS, and he really did hit them, you know, hard with and bombed them and bombed them and bombed. It wasn't like, well, yeah, we're going to attack ISIS, but they missed them by a day, right? Wherever they were at, they were there the day before. So purposely missing them and get them and letting them grow and letting them grow, while you're, you know, draining the military out of all ammunition, right? This whole garbage that was going on. But it's that shield, that idea of a shield there was to protect deep state assets. And what Trump did was he in removing them and then coming out with the sanctions, it was like the next day, bam, right? There's the sanctions. Oh, Turkey, oh, we better stop. It was just a show, right? Which was fine. It was that it was enough to do the job of getting rid of the people out of the deep state that were there on the ground causing problems, right? And what did the Kurds do? They left. They went home. There was some fighting, but not all of them. It hasn't all stopped yet. But that's the idea, right? They're going to leave this area, right? So Turkey is going to be, cleaning out anyone else that's left behind from the deep state. So everywhere we're looking, that's why when I saw 20,000 troops into Lithuania, just close to the Ukraine, I'm thinking, are they going to be clearing out more deep state strongholds? I mean, they got them out of North Korea, they got them out of Iran, they get them out of Syria. It makes sense. They could be going out through. If they were supporting the Nazis, the Obama administration supporting the Nazis in the Ukraine, right? That whole area, was filled with Nazis, right? The old power structures from when Nazi Germany was there. Those people were being supported, by the Fourth Reich that was implanted worldwide, this diseased entity that's been, feeding off of us, or really consuming us to the point where it's going to really just replace everyone on the planet, make everyone into drones. Ultimately, it almost sounds outlandish, these statements, right? But the reality, if you carry out what their plan is, what is at the end? Killing off 90% of the people. The ones that are left have no gender. You can't speak about anything. You can only go and do your job, right? And get your allowance, right? And if you're not thinking correctly, your social score is low, and you can't buy food. You can't get transportation. What are they making? They're making a drone army, right?
Yes. Well,
that's what would be left.
I mean, you can use everybody to do to be whatever you want them to be, right? So like people become, they just become thank you. People just become tools to use, right? Which is exactly how they saw us,
Right.
right? No, we're going to use people here. We're going to keep them droned out. We're going to keep them wasted and simple, right? So all they want to do is like basically now they can mate for entertainment, mainly for our entertainment more than theirs, right? But they're not going to actually be able to have kids anymore. So the innate desire to live and to, reproduce, which is innately, something that drives all of us, right? So you're gonna basically kill all that off, then you're gonna create this.
It is the purpose.
Society,
Ultimately, this is the purpose of life: is to continue it, and you do that through reproduction and through your children. Whatever we do along the way, whatever the labels we want to put on ourselves, whatever the goals and missions and roads and things that we do, along the way we reproduce, right? To expand and to go bigger, we're just being used as tools. I mean, even, whether it's for meat, whether it's for the adrenochrome, for them to take a bath in the adrenochrome, like in the movie Jupiter Ascending, where they get down in the white liquid and rise up and they're all like renewed, right? Whatever these things that they have planned, right? It's not for our benefit. It's only for them, and they think that they're superior because they have some other genetics in them, right? Which I think is actually handicapped them. It seems like to me. Right.
Well, right. I mean, of course, it made them much easier to modify genetically too, right? It's like it's very easy to turn this off, turn off your the part of you that loves, and turn on the part that is just obedient to what we say to do, right? That doesn't have, this is something that has been that they've tried to do to humanity for a long, long time. When you actually look at I talk about these stats, like about how many, men fired their weapons during World War I, which was like 14%. And then World War II, it was the same. And most of the time when they would fire over the heads of the other soldiers, right? Because they didn't want to kill someone who's so naturally against the human nature to do so, right? So they had to create this image of these really angry, that's why they use propaganda to create the angry, soldiers on the other side, and how evil they were. And even now we portray, every Nazi from Germany this way, right?
Right.
But in reality, they probably weren't. They were probably just regular guys, right, who were just sold on a mission.
I was just following orders.
Right.
Yeah,
in general, so you get trained to give up your own free will and submit to orders. That's why the real name that they refer to it as is the order, right? Because they all follow orders, right?
Yeah.
So they do whatever they're told, and that's what made them, in their mind, genetically superior, because they have order. It's organized. It's simple. You do the same thing over and over again. You devour the planet, then you move on. Right. This is why humanity has been such a thorn in their side, even though they've been raping and destroying us for the past 16,500 years. Because humanity cannot be stopped like that. Humanity is innately divine. We are creators. It's just the very nature of who we are.
Right. And
it would really, no matter where we stand on these things, it behooves us to take the time to examine that within ourselves, right? It is our failure to do a personal, detailed investigation of essential matters within ourselves that stagnates us in our life to be able to progress and remember who we are and appreciate and claim our power. So we continually find ourselves subject to people like Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi. Is there anyone, anywhere, who's looking at that and going, these are really prominent leaders. Look at all the great things they do. I mean, except for the women on The View, right? I mean, is there anybody who you could take seriously who actually looks at them as, great examples of leadership, right? They're currently, across the world. Who gave them the right to represent? any of us. What are you doing there? Go home to where you're from and represent your constituents. Have a conversation with some of the, the parents there. This is why the government has got to be represented by the people, and that's the people on the ground, not the people on the top of the top of the towers.
Yeah. And
because if they're not represented by the people, it's not the people's government, which it's not.
I think that this main system of control that we're dealing with, and why we have these stupid people that are supposed to be representing us, is because the media has been controlled, and it's the media that actually gives the orders to the Democrats. It's not the other way around. It's the Dems are following the orders because the press has been set up to take the 4 a.m. talking points, put it out there, and then the politicians pick up on what they're supposed to do. Right, and so we have to eliminate this. So it does appear that that Trump had made what I think I heard him say. He didn't blatantly put it this way, but my interpretation of what he said was that he's going to eliminate CNN from the press pool because he was making comments with Sean Hannity, and he made just a comment about we're doing something about it. They're going to remove CNN from the press pool, which is hooray, right? First step, get that done, get them out of there. That'll demote them. They have to report on things from outside the White House, or maybe they'll just do a green screen, like where they pretend that they're in a war-torn situation with their people, right? And they do it in the front of their building. They put up a green screen. They shoot the camera. Oh, that was so Wag the Dog, that movie Wag the Dog. So I mean that really tells what was really going on. You should watch that to see how they're really treating the world, right? And so we have to see the end of the current media-ocracy. Not the meritocracy, but the mediocrity.
Mediocrity. Kim referenced the Idiocracy. There's a movie out there called The Idiocracy.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And it's perfect. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Well, there are idiots.
Whole thing.
They are idiots. Because they only take orders, right? They're taking the 4 a.m. talking points that are sent to them. And who's sending that information out? It's the deep state apparatus, the CIA _A, CIC_A clowns that are putting these things out there for them to go ahead and move on, right? They present the move, but the problem is that now they don't have the storyline. None of their stories are working, so they keep putting it out. They keep doing the same thing over and over. They just follow orders. That's why they're not changing. That's why Trump just kind of leaving them out there and not blowing the boom on them just shows them for what they are. And we say, why don't they do something? Why don't they stop them? Why don't they pull their license? I think that's what we're going to see. Oh, hello, Tank, you're back. Hello.
You were on a roll. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I was on a roll. It's okay.
Yeah, I know. I missed the last part of it.
Yeah, well, that's one way to break up our conversation. They don't want us saying these kind of things. They don't want us to be on a roll. They don't want us to start, getting everyone else on the roll to get rid of them.
That's great. Yeah.
Anyway, I think we could probably end there. Unless there's anything else, any news from Kim, we could probably cover that. We kind of just went off on a tangent.
I don't have any other information right now. Ken, I know, like I said, transfers went out and they were supposed to clear. Obviously, they have not, or we'd be having a different conversation right now.
Hey, well, there is something I do I want to cover before we get off.
Okay.
Let me go ahead and share my screen. This is the website that I have here, the WWG1 WJA.love. One, I want to say I added some things here, and the reason I added them it's I've asked for donations, and I've had thank you everyone who has sent me donations. Last night, someone said that they're going to provide me, with the ability for me to pay my rent for a couple months. So I'm happy about that. So this is a. But I wanted to try and make it a little more easier because they're not good with PayPal and these things and how that works, and so a lot of people have that same problem. But on here, when you sign up, there's a join the Q Army. I added these extra membership levels, you might just call them, and so all you got to do is go to the join page, and of course you join. But down here, the normal ones I had was $0 for just citizen, $11 for alliance, $8.88 for rebellion, and Rebel Commander was $99.99. But I added these, right? So $200, right? Just plus you get 2 big hugs, 2-star general, $300, 3 more big hugs. Oh, and then here's a 3-star general for $400, and then 4-star general for $500, and then 5-star general for $1,000. So I just put it there so that it would make it a bit easier for people that want to donate bigger amounts and help out. So that's what I want to point out. And again, I appreciate everyone. Go ahead and complete these things here to complete that, and you can also go and look at your membership page. Go over to your account. And there are, I built this site, but I haven't been really, trying to promote it and get people active on it. Go into the blogs and things like that, because we're doing so many other things that it just doesn't. I can't build this and do and do other things. But at least this part is set up, so you can support us here on the front lines. So, all right, so that's what I wanted to cover. Thank you all for everything you've done so far, and I'm going to keep doing my best. Thank you again for making it possible.
I also just wanted to briefly pop in, very briefly, and
Andrew,
wish lots of life, love, happiness, laughter, balance, healing, a lot of beautiful things that are happening in this now. Even if this now is later on. You guys are incredible.
Hey man, I appreciate it, dude. I appreciate it. That was great, dude. That was perfect. All right, Dan, you have a great night. Andrew, thanks for topping the night off, right? Everybody, love, peace, and air grease. Talk to you later.
bye everyone. Bye.